Before I begin, I'd like to thank you all for being here for this speech and debate tournament and teaching your kids that it's okay to judge people. Speechy keen, isn't it? This is a story about me, or I guess, about my transition from socially inept New Jerseyan to socially inept Californian. First off, let me introduce myself. As a Chinese girl from the middle of cow-infested central New Jersey, popularized by Snooki and the failed spray tans, I'd like to introduce myself as a Mandarin Orange. Of course, that doesn't stop people from asking me what my real name is, since the identity I choose for myself is evidently not enough. So I'll let them know that my real name is Jenny Shin. It has an X, but it's pronounced like the like part. The problem is, whenever I do this, they'll repeat it back to me with, "Oh, I get it, like Jenny Sin," or "Oh, I get it, like Jenny Chin," or "Oh, I get it, like Jenny," insert obscure consonant here, in, or "Oh, I get it, like Jenny Ching-a-ling-a-ling," in the case of one really confused voice teacher. You see, I told her I wanted to sound like a bell, but apparently I went above and beyond and actually became the bell. At this point, I almost want to introduce myself as Jenny Crossing. So as you might guess, mispronunciations happen sometimes. But it's not just mispronunciations. There's always two questions that people tend to ask. The first is, how do you pronounce your last name? Ching-a-ling-a-ling. And the second is your name short for Jennifer? It's not really short for anything. If you look at my birth certificate, it just says Jenny. But at this point, I've heard this question so many times that I'd like to answer, no, it's short for genocide. I don't really say that. Yes, I do. For some reason, I've been told that calling myself genocide isn't an option, so I've tried to go by my Chinese name, which is Xin Lu. You see, when my parents gave me that name, they christened me hardworking piece of jade. The problem is, well, Xin Lu may mean hardworking piece of jade. It also sounds a lot like the Chinese words for new road. The problem with this is that I have to explain that no, my mother was not walking down the street one day, and no, she didn't accidentally pass by a construction site, and no, she didn't point at the freshly laid gravel and yell, "Ah yes, my child." But the perk to having the name New Road is that I actually can claim that I have a street name. But that's enough about my name. Let's talk a little bit more about my background. After people get to know me a little bit, they find out I'm from cow-infested central New Jersey, whether it's by my wild accent or by the fact that there's so much sunlight that I look cowed a lot. Then the oncoming storm of East Coast questions arrives. Oh my god, you guys have In-N-Out? Our Krispy Kreme? No. We have McDonald's. We have Dunkin' Donuts. We have cows. We have Snooki. And then there's, oh my god, you guys have snow. Digression. It always seems like a big deal to people that East Coasters wake up in the morning and look out the window and see white. Like, I'd have thought Americans would have gotten used to that by now. Take a look at those Congress doing something productive panoramas that the New York Times is always publishing. 361 whites out of 501 total members? Shouldn't we be used to seeing a never-ending sea of white, whether it be snow or representative government? But back to the point. After they fall to their knees and marvel at the existence of snow for a while, the Californians I've met tend to ask, "So what do you guys do on snow days?" Well, this is just me, but I tend to like to skin polar bears by hand and cuddle with 2 gallons of seal fat and twig find and igloo that my fellow Eskimos and I built for the oncoming frozen tsunami. We watch Netflix. And then there's, I can't believe you guys have snow. Do you guys have summer? No, that melt the igloos. So you don't have sunlight? Nope. If you take a look at New Jersey demographics, the city of Holmdel, which I'm proud to call home, is 20% Chinese. That's enough yellow to sustain New Jersey for a while. But that's enough about my background. The story actually begins with my dad telling me we were going to move to the land of real tans and sun-dried raisins after 8th grade. But at the time, I was astounded. As far as I knew, California was next to Hawaii and was essentially a palm tree that occasionally sprouted a hit movie and a surfer. But I became a lot more educated thanks to Katy Perry's hit California Girls. I then learned that I needed sun-kissed skin and the ability to wear a bikini without having people run away in fear of the spare tires. Sun-kissed skin wasn't a problem. Since we were all spray tan so orange, I could potentially be confused for the orange soda sun-kissed. Sun-kissed skin, done. Bikini body, easy solution. Absolutely not. If anyone asks, I am in shape. A sphere is a shape. So I had to get toned for what I imagined was months of wearing waterproof underwear, aka bikinis. And the easiest way to do that, said my mother, was to swim in the YMCA public pool. Unfortunately, swimming was a nightmare. Nothing went swimmingly. I dreaded being in water. I always had to ask my instructor, "What are you doing?" Basically, swimming turned out to be a form of Chinese water torture. So I came to California carrying so many spare tires, I was essentially an SUV. So needless to say, when the plane flopped its way down onto San Francisco International, I was terrified. I was orange, I was an SUV, I was probably near Hawaii. Turns out though, California is not actually that different from New Jersey. Granted, there's a lot more sunlight, and wintertime isn't a concept, but other than that, it's essentially the same. Surprisingly though, I wasn't actually whacked in the face with sun-dried raisins and palm trees as much as I was whacked in the face with impressive amounts of intelligence and motivation, both of which I'm currently working on. Intelligence I've given up on. Motivation though is pronounced motivation. If you take the vatty or the fatty out of motivation, you're left with motion. You see, I believe in fatty acids, but I don't believe in motion. Ever. When I think about getting out of bed, I give myself various terminal diseases. My mile time is at 10:30, if there's a donut at the end. The problem is that most things that require motivation don't really have donuts, and do have a lot of physical and mental effort. No vatty, and all motion doesn't really work for me, so I don't have any motivation. But back to the point, being in a new state compelled me to prove I was smart, and speech and debate looked like something that smart people would do. When I tried to sign up for the club though, I received this really weird slip from the English department. It was pink, had a bunch of printed graphics, and it had that doctor's handwriting that we all love and cherish. After around 3 weeks of me staring at the page, because I didn't understand what the English department had meant by I then learned that they wanted me to take the English as a second language test because I had moved from New Jersey. Apparently New Jersey is no longer part of the United States. We're part of the English-speaking conglomeration. But either way, I obediently followed the directions to the English department, where they sat down and pulled out a stack of flashcards. They looked at me, held up a picture of a hose, and asked, "Can you tell me what this is?" A hose. Good. After around 3 weeks, I received mail from the English department saying that I had passed the English as a second language test. But at the time, I was actually relieved, being the newcomer I was. Now though, I realized that me not passing the English as a second language test would have been really difficult. I mean, me fails English? That's impossible. Eventually though, they did let me on the speech and debate team. But now that I'm on it, the whole smart people do speech and debate might be a little bit, debatable. So that's the story of me and how I ended up in California, disturbing public tranquility in a whole new state. And ever since then, I've been speaking and debating, which brings us full circle. Just like my body shape.